so much preparation, so much technical, tactical aspect, psychology, a lot of things going on. And he's like, nah, just two people going in there and scrapping. And I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I told him, next fight, I'm gonna get my student to go in the cage before the fight. I'm gonna show you exactly how he's gonna win the fight, and I'm gonna post it the day after. He said, okay, let's see if you can do that. And I did it. No? And I was probably the first one in the world to do that. My daughter was born. I saw her coming out. 3 hours later, I was in the car to a fight on the other sides of Italy. You have to be selfless as a coach. You cannot, a lot of people right now, they coach and they're driven by the last part, which is the money.
Absolutely.
Money should be a consequence of you doing things right and having the best intent as a coach to see your people getting better in sport and life.
Another episode of the Path Talk Show, and today we have the father of modern day MMA. He's the founder of MMA, FFT, and he's responsible for creating so many different champions in MMA. Welcome, Renato.
Thank you.
And it's quite funny because I've known you since like 2019.
Yes.
Because we met at a gym in Liverpool.
Yes.
And I still remember that day you posted your first day on the job working in Rockdale.
Yes.
With you, I think it was either a piccolo or an espresso.
Yes.
And it was great to see how far you've come since then.
Yeah. Life is very interesting. Sometimes you plant the seeds and you don't see nothing for years. And at some point, things grow exponentially.
Absolutely. And I'd love to just watch you and your journey, like from the sidelines, seeing where you started off in Rockdale, seeing you build up and work in different gyms as well, and seeing you be able to build the army you have behind you now, which is phenomenal.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. Like for life reason, I end up being in Australia and start like from less than zero. And actually, when I came to Australia, I was like, I'm not gonna do MMA, or if I want to do something different. I want to challenge myself. I had a very successful gym back home in Italy, and sort of because of life, I have to let go of everything. And I wanted to, when you love something so much, it brings you also weird feelings about it. So for my first moment in Australia, I was like, I'm gonna keep that love aside. I'm gonna do like a normal job. I was working in construction, and ads pop on my I think Facebook of King's Academy. Elvis is very good on promoting the gym, by the way.
He is.
And I end up like going there and just start training for myself, for my mental health, and to feel better. And I end up, it's like a circle. I end up like seeing someone there, was doing some mistakes, and like giving them my opinion, and things growed exponentially. Now I'm the head coach of my team, and the team is doing very, very well.
Definitely. What did you find was that shift where you was like, okay, this is for me and I want to be able to stick to coaching?
So I always felt, I always have the drive. Like I think in the life we live in now, a lot of people are driven by opportunity, right? So they see maybe, you are a MMA coach, wrestling coach, striking coach, you do privates, you make money. Oh, that's good. I can do that. And plus, when you are an athlete, you have spent all your life investing so much money, so much time. And when you see like, I have this knowledge, what I can do with that, I can make something about it. But it's almost like a compromise, because when you decide to do that, you almost cut your growth, your personal growth as an athlete, as a fighter, because these two things doesn't go together. They say no, champions are broken, and you have to be broken as an athlete to be able to find that missing part, progress, and get a perfectionist on what I'm doing, so you can move things to the next level and find opportunity. For me, I didn't really choose it, like people choose for me. I was in Italy, I was doing my training, and I think one thing I find out with time, reading books, studying, and develop been personally as a man, it's you don't really. A lot of people try to be a leader, and I didn't care less, to be honest. Like I didn't care to tell people. Like a lot of people have that ego, you know. I was doing my things, but slowly people will come around me and ask me question, ask me that, and um, at the time my requirement was like I needed people to train with. You know, you come from wrestling, and MMA was very small, so I opened like a small um training room which was in a park. Literally, we was wrestling on the grass and uh, and doing striking outside in the park because I needed people to train with. And slowly those people progress. More people came in the park to train with me, and slowly my attention was shifted because people need you, right? And now you have two options, or like especially your as a coach, you get tested when you don't have nothing. For years, I've been doing that and didn't make any sense. I was losing money. I was working in IKEA, waking up at 4 a.m., going to work, coaching people for free, driving people to the gym. It's just like is you have to be selfless as a coach. You cannot. A lot of people right now they coach and they're driven by the last part, which is the money. You know,
Absolutely.
money should be a consequence of you doing things right and having the best intent as a coach to see your people getting better in sport and life.
I absolutely agree with that. And I find it hard for a lot of people nowadays where a lot of people are more striving to make money and
Yes.
not a lot of people are more selfless and
Yes.
wanting to be able to spend extra time with the athletes and be
Yes.
able to build them. I can relate a lot to that as well when I was preparing for the Commonwealth Games, where I had to be an athlete and a coach, right? And I had to focus on developing athletes, giving time to them, but also trying to wrestle with them to get better myself, but also help them in the progress.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
both have that win-win where we're both helping each other grow
Yeah.
in order to be able to compete at our
Yeah.
best.
I think it's a very interesting point when, as an athlete, you're shifting towards being a coach because you probably is the worst period for a person internally having that shift because when you fight, you establish like a dominance on the other person. Now, especially like if we talk about wrestling, yeah, you don't have the strikes, but you have like this sort of like primitive dominance on like I'm better than you, I'm stronger than you,
Yeah.
I'm more skills than you. In fighting, that's also shifting towards like I'm gonna hurt you badly, I'm superior than you. And when you shift being a coach from a fighter to being a coach, you have like that shift where you don't really feel to hurt them, but you also have to get ready for a fight. So you have to simulate something which is gonna be very stressful and very dangerous. So you have to come close. So you feel bad if you hurt someone, you care, and you want to develop as a student. So I think at the time I had a boxing coach when he said to me, "You cannot really coach and fight," and I was like, "Yeah, I can do that." You know what I mean? Like I can, and wasn't like the best person to take advice with. Wasn't like a really a great role model, no, at the time. But that he what he said that day was right. It's you're shifting important resources from two big tasks, which will be better. Like is one old saying in Italian: "The life is too short. It's better for you choose one things and do it right." You know,
I love
than
that.
choose like 50 things. And yeah, of course, in the progress of life, you need to test what you like. It's like trying food. You know what I mean? Like you cannot say I don't like Thai food. Did you ever try it? No. So you have to test things and see if they are good for you, right? So same in this process of growing as a coach, you have to understand those steps. And I think I saw clearly in my development in my team in Italy, in the moment I say I'm not gonna fight anymore, I'm just gonna coach, and my team went like from a very good level to an extremely elite level. No, things changed drastically. Month by month was my attention, my energy, my focus was different. The sad part is because we are in a fighting industry, right? And you have like constantly, it's it's a very unique environment, right? So you're gonna have people come in the gym, they look at you and they want to test you, because he's fighting, he's primitive. What this guy can do to me? What's gonna happen if I challenge him? So also as a coach, you have always to be ready and fit. Especially if you're a young coach, they want like, oh, let me see if what he says is true. Oh, okay, I respect that now. So it's a very interesting part.
Yeah, absolutely. Just when you just said that there, some people tend to challenge you on your technique and what you do.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how they respond after you execute the technique on them, and they say,
Yeah.
"Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now I understand why you do that."
Exactly. It's interesting now because even online up and that, you know what I mean? Like I probably start like, that's why they call me the father of the modern MMA. It's a funny joke. It's a bit is a joke, but also shows like a completely different vision of how I've seen the sport. A long time ago, like was 12 years ago, I was doing the same things I'm doing now. And at the time, everyone was, these things doesn't work. You cannot do that. The sport was very primitive at the time. So you have to do these things like that. You do jiu-jitsu, you do wrestling, and I was like, man, like it's so much more in the sport, and it's so many gray areas. The sport is evolving himself. MMA started as a core, as a challenge between different martial arts, but once you put the cage, once you put a time limit, once you put like a rest time, and you get all this, you just build the sport himself. So you have to be very good on those gray area, and of course, the discipline himself. They help you. For example, I'm lacking in wrestling. I'm gonna get someone very good in wrestling and help me to grow in that term. It's like it's simple. No, you have to just be open minded.
Absolutely.
The reality of the sport is this: if especially MMA, because it's so many things going on. If you, for example, if you sucks in jiu-jitsu, right, and let's make it easier. You are very bad on wrestling. You don't like wrestling. The point is like you're gonna get taken down and people's gonna smash you. So now you have two choices: or fix the problem or avoid the problem. If you avoid the problem, it's gonna happen again. So that's where a lot of fighters have that wrong ego. They're like, oh, I don't like to wrestle. I don't like jiu-jitsu. Don't do wrestling. Don't do MMA. Do tennis. You know what I mean? You're not gonna have to wrestle in tennis. The person is on the other sides of the fence, so you don't have any contact. But that's the point. Like as an athlete, you also have to be the most important things for a fighter is develop their IQ and their ability to understand what's right, what's wrong, what can help them progress in their career, and what actually is damaging them.
That's very true, and I feel a lot of people need to be able to have those awareness on that. And how much do you think MMA has evolved in like the past 10 years? Since like, let's say, beginning at UFC 200, around that period, to now?
So 200, 300, let's say there was already like a way of shifting towards, but if we make it like more, if we stretch everything out and we go like UFC 1, right? And with UFC 300, well, the development is massively. Like it's interesting how combat sport in these last 50 years have evolved more than the last men been fighting since they exist. But in these last 50 years, the combat sport have evolved more than ever in their existence. So that's a very interesting point. The reality is the sport is going to be always something new, right? But now in the point we have bring the sport, is going to be very hard to see some big changes. When Gracie at the time developed the ground game in jiu-jitsu and starts submitting people, he bring something new on the table, which like was like discover like America, was like that's interesting. Like you can really do that to some other person, even if you're smaller. So it was like revolutionary. And I think if you can bring in the perspective right now, the local amateur MMA fighter could beat the ranked number 5 professional in the world on the time of UFC 1, etc. So that's the level. Like it's completely another level right now. Of course, we need to understand the progression, and the first way to love the sport and grow in the sport is respect who did it before. So it's just like completely different right now. Now everyone know how to defend a takedown. Everyone know how to defend submissions if they start fighting. Before, we're talking about UFC 1, someone will go in the octagon and never seen an armbar on a triangle or a double leg. You know, they was thinking, was that challenge between martial arts? I'm a taekwondo guy, you're never gonna take me down. I'm gonna kick you in the face. And after they hit reality and understand, like, okay, that's not that easy. Yeah.
Oh, I agree with that. And I find it so important. You need to be able to set out a solid foundation before you continue to build on that. And I find a lot of people today, they look on YouTube or see moves on Instagram, they decide to try it without actually learning the proper foundations before
Exactly.
progressing into good technique.
That's an interesting point because, for example, I have a system in place in my way I coach, and this system have like a core foundations where, like, if you are in the system, you need to know those things. Now the system is built like a circle, and if you start on one point, now you might start after, but we're gonna come back on that point. So those things doesn't change, but I'm very I'm paying so much attention on the development of the team, and I see I'm not only learning from what we do right, but if I see a mistake occur in a different fights, this means that's a problem, and this means I have to bring it back and I have to find a solution in the system. It's solving problems. The point a lot of people get attracted on the video. No, even I started doing the video because I was challenged, right? I was sitting on the table with a bunch of friends, and someone, oh yeah, you do that sport, the people in the cage, and I'm like, yeah, it's a sport. Like it's so much preparation, so much technical, tactical aspect, psychology, a lot of things going on. And he's like, nah, just two people going in there and scrapping. And I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I told him, next fight, I'm gonna get my student to go in the cage before the fight. I'm gonna show you exactly how he's gonna win the fight, and I'm gonna post it the day after. He said, okay, let's see if you can do that. And I did it. No? And I was probably the first one in the world to do that. Like we literally, I did that. I probably posted around like 100 video of example of me showing you exactly how my student is going to win and replicating the fight. Because that's what we're practicing is like going to university. We practice in those subjects, we're getting good grades on, we are able to execute it. Like it's like becoming a doctor. You study those things, you practice them on your skills, and after you're able to perform them. And that's what's all about. And fighting is very complicated because now it's not like I can do whenever I want. There's another guy on the other side which wants that comes on the is like an army comes to the battle with his game plan and his strategy to beat you. And now it's a lot of information online. So you do one fight, I can see so many mistakes you're doing and things I can get advantage of. Because a lot of people when they watch a video they say, oh look, um, he lands a jab but he doesn't bring the hands back, right? But it's so many things you can learn from footage. You have to see how he not only what he does on the technique, but in a specific moment of stress, on in specific moments of the fight, how he's dealing with that. And that's what I look the most. I don't really look much anymore on like, oh, while he does this technique, I see them once they get touched in a certain way, they react in a certain way. So those reaction, you you can see them from a fighter when he started the first fight and he have like 100 fights. That's something natural they have in their instinct, and it's very very hard to change. A lot of people never change it, or they learn like to cover it up. But once you put them in a moment of huge stress, the mistakes repeat and get out there. So yeah, it's a very interesting chess game.
It is. I feel it's like a chess game with only like a split of second to think sometimes,
Yes,
and you have to move so fast. But I also love how you get your athletes to manifest and visualize how the outcome is going to actually perceive itself.
yes,
And usually it is the case how it falls into the results that is
yes,
shown in your Instagram and also other parts of social media. I find there's a lot of lack in other like academies that they don't actually practice that enough,
yes,
where I think mental health is such a big issue that
yes,
all athletes need to address,
yes,
as well as being able to focus on visualization, seeing the outcome before actually going out there and doing it. Because you can feel your muscles fire exactly the same way if you're visualizing.
yes,
And when you go out and train and practice your technique, or go into sparring, or go into fights, your body just naturally reacts to in that
yes.
certain way.
I agree. It's interesting because it's I always have these rules, which is the rules of the three, right? So if you do something the first time, it's never gonna be well. Okay, it's gonna be so many um, unpredictable factors you have to deal with. When you do it the second time, you sort of do less mistakes and you are more relaxed. And the third time, you have the opportunity to learn from also that the mistakes you have done previously. So when you visualize, you're simulating the fight in your head, and we have like different type of visualization. You have like far away from the competition, the fight, you have an external visualization when you see yourself and the opponent. Some almost like having a camera outside, and you see the fights happening and how things are going. And after closest to the fight, you're going in a one-on-one visualization when you are the protagonist and you see things from that point of view, simulating that when the fight is going to happen, you already fought this guy in your head 50 times. Now you cannot, same as a fight, you cannot get the visualization, get the better of your emotion, because you're going to lose sleep, you're not going to recover. It's like stress, and that's an important thing you say. And I like what you say, like no one speaks about the mental health which fighters go through. And I want to touch a point which doesn't really benefit me as a coach in my industry to say that, but as people know me, I like to be completely transparent and honest on things. One thing I say always, right? And I've said it, but I never say the second part. It's like saying the first chapter of the book, but I didn't. I left like there, and the second chapter is probably what people have to know when they're approaching this sport. So fighting is a positive addiction. I always say that. When you start fighting, diet, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking, automatically sleep. You structure your day, and you're going to do something very stressful. So the fear of that, the fear have to be there. The fear is like the most natural things. When people are trying to tougher up and say like I'm not scared, you have to be scared. Like that's what keeps you aware of the things. You have to manage that fear and use it in your advantage. But an interesting point is you structure your life, right? Everything start going in the sort of direction. You become that identity. The point is, as I say, it's a positive addiction, and especially when you compete on a high level and you are under those spotlights, and you have these massive fears, and you live those experiences when people are clapping, cheering your name, but you're on, like, even if you don't do it for the people, even if you just do it for you, right? And you put yourself under something very stressful and massive like that, after you constantly researching for that, and the interesting part is like no one talks about the depression fighters go after they finish their career, because you have sticks for years, for 10, 20, 30 years of your life in one identity, and now your body doesn't react the same way. You have lived all this life of challenging yourself on the edge of the cliff, because we're talking about life and death situation. That's like, especially in MMA, you need to have the ability to come on the edge of the cliff, and you need to have the will to jump if you have to jump. So that's practice. It's also like a very dangerous practice to do in your inner self, because you become a master of willing to do uh, things in your life. So you're able to master and control yourself on that point, which can become also very dangerous on the other sides, because if you do jump the cliff, you're not coming back. So that's something like I never hear people talk about it, but it's something I'm very concerned. I have like so many fighters reaching me around the world, fighters, former UFC fighters. One of my students was a former UFC fighter. He reached me literally 3 days ago, and in the message is like he cannot compete at the moment. He has some personal issues, but he told me like I'm having depressed. I feel like suicidal. I feel like I'm not in a good position mentally to control myself, because he was in UFC. He had like 25,000 people in the arena screaming and cheering for him and booing for him whenever he experienced those type of hype, which like no drugs, no other things, a hype of like being in a life of that situation. When someone jumps off the plane, like that type of adrenaline, it's very unique and can become uh, negatively addictive. So it's very important, and I hope in the future UFC and all the biggest promotion have a program for those fighters, because as I told you at the beginning, this sport in the last 50 years have evolved in a way like never before, and it become mainstream. Becoming mainstream, like millions of people around the world are doing this. And the same as the movie, Concussion. I don't know if you watch it.
Haven't seen it yet.
It's a beautiful movie which talk about rugby player and the damage which the concussion have caused them in the ears. And is this doctor which find out CTA damage, etc., and how impact drastically in their life after the competition. When they're getting older, they're getting Alzheimer or dementia, or uh, they having anger management and problems. So I hope will someone at some point the sport getting that big, someone really start study those things. My idea of the sport, I hope we evolve and make it um, that safe as possible, because we choose to do something better. We choose it. At the end of the day, you could choose to do something else. And I always say like it's it's on you to make your decision. Definitely, a lot of people need this to survive in life regardless. But I hope one day we can get those studies and sort of we have when same like in construction they have like I forgot the word when they have when you sit down and you discuss of the problem. The organization which provide like we are protesting because we are not getting paid enough for this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Strike.
yeah. So I hope one day in fighting community we have like an organization which can sit down with the promotion and discuss, because some of those guys like taking the damage you're taking and getting paid $300, you know what I mean? I hope one day we have the ability to sit down and put some limits, like a minimum to get paid. Not only for the fighters, even for the referee, you know what I mean? You're coming from wrestling, and when someone get paid $50 to referee all day, like you might referee well for 2 3 fights, and after you're like, what I'm doing, you know what I mean? Like I'm exhausted. I've been here 12 hours refereeing one after the other. So I hope MMA is a multi-billion business, and hope we get on a point on the evolution of the sport. I think that's where the sport have to evolve, have to become structured on the point to sustain a fighter after he's retired,
Yeah.
and give him the tools to um, be the best he can be after such a um, hard journey, injury, trauma, concussion, and so many other things, mental health, etc. So hopefully one day we get to the point, and I hope I think at the end of my career as a coach, I'm gonna try to focus on that. I'm gonna try to bring uh, most important figure of the sport to get the fighters what they deserve. You know,
Yeah,
especially on the
absolutely.
biggest promotion. Like you cannot get paid. You cannot have work all your life. You go on the best or second best promotion in the world, you get paid 10, $20,000. You know, that's embarrassing for a fighter to do that, because at the end of the day, uh, a lot of fighters, you've seen it more and more, they speaking out and they say like, I cannot afford to live and fight maybe twice a year. Get
Mm,
If you win, you get 20, 25. If you lose, we're talking about the NFL of MMA, so like the best of the best. If you lose, you get paid 10 grand. You fight twice a year, you make 20 grand. You cannot feed your family with that. So hopefully one day.
yeah, it's really tough. And as you said, like a lot of MMA fighters, even just like combat athletes, tend to suffer from identity crisis, where they feel they still are in that same shape as when they were in their 20s or early 30s.
Yes.
And they don't realize, like what you said, they don't move like the way they used to, and they can easily get injured or
Yeah.
cause major harm towards themselves. And I feel we're reaching to a point where it's getting better, especially if you're making the top 10 athletes in the world. Like, for example, Alex Volkanovski,
Yes.
he's running his
Yes.
own gyms on the side of that.
Yes.
Same with Rod Whitaker. But I know a few other UFC fighters before that and spoken to them as well. And one of them is getting back into fighting after retiring. He's trying to fight for the same rights we were just talking about there, where they're trying to get the fighters to be able to get paid well and make a good living off of it.
Yes.
And it's sad to see a lot of fighters having to try to go back into the sport after reaching almost the age of
Yes.
50 and just causing more harm to themselves rather
Yes.
than trying to find another path for them
And
to
that's
build.
also like another aspect, like when to retire, right? I think this it's something should be like some international rules which um, cannot be broken, and you get some penalty, etc. uh, I think one rules which should be important is like the age limit. Of course, like the age, and people like in their 40s now are different in the 40s like 30, 40 years ago. So I think should be an age gap when like you cannot go back on fighting. End of story. No matter what's your condition, just like make it. So even to give like people, I think an indication, fighters give them, hey, you have time until 50, and that's it. You're not gonna do this anymore. And I think putting that and not giving them the hope like, okay, I build a name, I build a reputation, now I can come back and make a few millions and retire. I think we're missing a point which we want to see two people in their best shape of form compete against each other and prove who's the better one, right? Who have the better skills, who have more power, who have more speed, who is more smart. So that's what's the goal of fighting. I don't want to see Mike Tyson fighting Jack Paul. You know what I mean?
I was going to
It's
mention that next.
it's something like it's just like, even if Mike Tyson does well, you know what I mean? And I hope so. I hope he does, because he's such a legend in the sport, and he his name comes with like when you think about Mike Tyson, you think about power, speed, all of those things, and having like that last imagine of him, like you can see in his eyes, he's doing it for the paycheck, and it's like, man, I don't think that should have been allowed, no matter what rules they put in place and safety. I think should be international law when like we have a limits of age, we have limits of paid, like minimum pay, and also some of the dividend of these promotions, some percentage of these promotions goes to a global body which um, can use it for programs after for fighters, because like some of them they're in very dark places, and people don't speak about it because you just want to show like the highlight reel and the technique. The reality, I receive hundreds of messages every week of people telling me, uh, I don't know if I should retire or, and it's very hard things to say to someone who have done just this all her life, because like most of them to succeed in the sport, they're completely broken. No, they came in the sport broken. Now, if you have like the guy who is structured and he, yeah, Volkanovski, Whitaker, you say it, that's two of them. How many in Australia have been in UFC? How many are now? Two, even if it's hundreds of them, and two of them, that's a very small percentage of
It
success.
is.
You know, very, very small, tiny. And yeah, it's also to see what's gonna be the impact in those people in 30 years. How like they can have millions, but they lose themselves, and yeah, hope. What I'm saying is like that's going against what I'm doing. Is like literally for me, just carrying the food resources for my job, but I want to be real. So that's why I want people when they watch this say, "Hey, do I really want to do this? Yes. Do I want to do it on the competition level? Yes. Okay, that's what's gonna happen. That's the path I'm gonna be going through. So I want to be honest to the people out there. I think that's why I'm successful in what I'm doing. And like me or not, I'm telling you the things how they are. And that's very hard as a coach, you know. It's very hard to love someone. No one speaks about that, you know. And yeah, you lose a wrestling competition, you might get pissed off and not feeling good. Some of my guys, when they lose, this means they lose years of their life. You know, they get knocked down, or even when I see one of my guys knock the other guy down, I don't really celebrate much because, yeah, that's like the samurai mentality. You know, like the best respect you can give to your opponent is the end. You know, you have to go with that mentality. You cannot fight if you don't have that mentality. But the point is like I don't celebrate because I know what is when happen on your sides of the corner and someone you love and you care deeply and you have seen how many look the fight Jose Aldo Connor. Jose Aldo is a legend, right? And he get knocked down unconscious in 13 seconds. It's man, it's very hard. Think about the impact psychologically that fight have on him worldwide, forever. People gonna see that. People when they're gonna talk to him, they're gonna think about that first. And he was 10 years not losing a
Undefeated.
fight, undefeated. You know what I mean? That's why I like take it easy. On the wins, I don't celebrate much. On the losses, I don't stay there much because the next week we have another fight, and that's the problem of being a coach. You know, no one. A lot of people speaks of the athlete, but you have coaches, but how many real coaches? You know, the
Mm.
reality is I'm preparing someone I love to do something very dangerous. So that's a very weird form of love, you know. So I'm giving you the tools. So I'm giving you a sword and a shield, and I'm putting you in war and telling you that's love. So emotion gets compromised many times, you know, between athlete and fighter. And sometimes you can have the best interest you want towards your fighter, but also think about when you know what they're going to go through and you are honest with them and you tell them, hey, if you do this like that, it's not going to end up on your way, it's going to be bad. And they get emotionally hurt from you because you tell them the truth. Is so many yes men coaches out there, you know, so many people who they coach you and they damage their athlete even more with that. They coach you and they're like trying to please their athlete or make them happy. The reality is, I understand why they're doing that.
Mm.
I understand they're trying to create a network around them and having people, but at some point when you are high in the like a high level coach, you have to be honest with your people. And I posted a video about it. Like, I'm not their babysitter. I'm there to prepare them to a fight. And I will be honest with them. And if they cannot accept the cruel and raw honesty, they cannot be with me. I have athletes who, you know, as a coach, you have to have a very good understanding of psychology, philosophy,
Mm.
history, and all of those things to put them together to make them feel understood and make them feel able to perform and confident with you. But the reality is, I bring you, you know, to the coaches from a coach perspective. You know how many guys I've prepared them and I invest years of my life. I saw them coming in the gym, need this more than anything, being completely broken and need me so deeply, which I have to, like, my daughter was born, I saw her coming out. 3 hours later, I was in the car to a fight on the other sides of Italy to do my job. You know, I lost those moments. I lost a part of my daughter life, which is my blood and is everything for me, to do my job the best, because I know what the responsibility take to be in someone's corner. I know if they get knocked down and I wasn't there, I know I will feel guilty about it. But from a coach to the other coaches, you know how many times I've seen them coming to me, I'm helping them getting better, and simply life. Life is a very unpredictable things. Like, you can have everything planned in the next 10 years. One small things happen. It happened to me many times, and your reality completely shift. I have fighters like prepare them everything, and they're, hey coach, you see, I finished like my uni. I'm moving overseas. I'm gonna become a lawyer. You know what I mean? And I'm so happy for them,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I want the reason why we start this conversation as a podcast today is like, as a coach, you have to be selfless. You want see people doing better, and if the sport is one tools to make them better, that's all you have to do in the best way. If through the sport they're getting confidence, they're getting stronger, they're getting able to make decisions and feel good about their life, you're winning as a coach. That's where you win, not the belt, not the UFC belt. That's all plus. The money, the percentage of the purse, that's all plus, which comes, that's what we spoke about previously. Like, people think about money. Money from, so you start from here and money is this point. But legacy is there,
Yeah.
right? And so if you want to hit legacy and you want to make history and write history in the books, automatically you're gonna make money. That's a consequence. But a lot of people, they think the money is the limit, you know, and that's where things get confused. Anyway, I had one of my fighter, and was interesting. You know, he wanted to fight. He wanted to fight. He wanted to fight, and he's old. And I said to him, "Listen, we have one deal. If you want me to coach you, you are 40, 42. That's your last fight. I'm gonna prepare in the best way you can. I'm gonna get you a fight." Which you'll never forget. The fight was in Tahiti, in a beautiful island, tropical paradise. I invest my own funds to get him there, and it's gonna be a tough opponent. It's gonna be the way you go, or you go on with your sword, or you go on your shield. But that's the last fight. We're not gonna speak. We're not gonna have this conversation anymore. If not, that's the door. You can go today. And he was like, I want to fight. I feel good. I feel good. And he was saying like that the last fights. Anyway, I prepared him. He was in the best shape ever. A great person. I love him. No, and love sometimes is harmful, because you you have to make the right decision even if you care about someone. Right decision sometimes doesn't really on the first impact show love. By the way, he compete, he win. Beautiful finish, amazing performance. We're in a tropical paradise. The day after, we're sitting, having a coffee, having a food, and he looked at me and said, "Coach, you know, I'm gonna come sometimes in the gym. I'm gonna train with you," and I'm so happy what he says. But I felt so lonely at the same time, because I did like this, no, and I give so much, but now he goes. You know what I mean? And I'm like, who thinks about those people? And I got this every day, you know. Every day I have people like life, like they find a partner, they have a kids. I have guys who they start with me here in Australia. There was 15, 16, 17. And now they're on the way to having kids and getting married. And I'm like, I'm sadly choose a path when I'm stuck in this circle forever. They can use that as a boost for their life.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm like, I have to do that. And the day, and after, like, I'm broken completely mentally, because you love those people and you make them do dangerous things. But do you love them and they have the most success and they use this sport and this experience to get better in life and they go. And I'm so happy for them to go. But also, I'm I'm still there in the circle. No? I cannot escape. And no matter what, like I, as a man, as a leader, I took my responsibility. So I have to do things in the best way I can. And after you end up like, you question yourself many times and say like, I'm that big at the moment. No, I can stop right now. I have offer all around the world. I have a massive offer in the Emirates. They offer me a massive wage for 1 year to coach there, and I don't need to coach fighter anymore. You know what I mean? Like I have that credibility, which I can make thousands of dollars every day if I want, and I've been in a good spot. But having fighters, you know that
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
athletes, it's very bad for business. Very, very bad. You know, you have people who are completely broken. I have people who travel all around the world. They come and train with me. People around, they don't even know I pay their rent. They don't have food. I play like I've been broken. I know what's not having nothing. I know, I see when someone walks in the gym and have like for 5 days in the week he training 3 times, and for 3 of these days of the week he have the same shirt. I know where he's at. So what I do, like I know how proud that fighter and hardly how they gonna accept you help them. So I do it in a way I learned to do it. So I'm like, I'm going to eat something. You want to join me? Yeah, just join me. You don't need to eat, and I'm gonna order for them food. You know what I mean? And I do all these micro things. That's why I'm on a turning point in my gym when we're massive. Maybe we can use that 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 clip and say these things because we're that big, and we probably are one of the most successful team in Australia, and it's getting very hard to get fight locally. So you know how it is when you're
Oh,
getting good,
absolutely.
it's getting, you have to go out, and the problem is like we have one major sponsor which is a very close friend from mine, Lintech. Ahmed is an amazing person who really, if it wasn't for him, like right now we have a Ferrari and we are on the top of the mountain, and the point is like you can have a Ferrari but you don't have petrol to put in the Ferrari, you're not gonna go anywhere. At the moment we really need to find some sponsor to support the team activity, as many team does. I hardly ask anything. Who knows me? I will rather cut my arms before I ask anything. But one thing I'm good at is I will do it for my people. You know, so I won't ask
Absolutely.
anything for me, but I will do ask for them to find a way. So it's getting that big where like financially it's very good at fighters because you sometimes they fight, you pay their flight, they don't even know. I tell them you have the promotion paid. I'm the promotion, I'm the sponsor, I'm the everything, you know. Just as a man, like that's the point. Like I took one responsibility and I took it on a way where I want to get to the top, and I want these guys to make a living off. I want one day, I don't educate my guys only in the sport. Like I have one guy, you know, Cooper,
Yeah,
right?
and I keep
He's an
very well.
amazing kid, come from like a very, very hard life. You know, I seen so much of myself in him. I'm not only teaching him how to win a fight. I want him to be a good man. I want one day him to break the circle of his family and like come to a point to say, I'm happy. I have a kids. I have a wife. I'm happy. I'm going. I'm getting a place where I'm peaceful. You know, we fight for the peace. You fight because you have something less, not something more. You fight because you want to find that moment of quiet in your mind. You're in the present and you can enjoy life. That's what we're fighting for. And we're not fighting for money. Money, it's a reason to have time. At some point, like if they tell you, have all the money in the world and don't wake up tomorrow, you're going to take it. You're not going to take it. You're going to wake up tomorrow. And that's the part. You know, no one speaks about the coach sides and what a real coach, because I was used not a great coaches. I was used to people taking advantage of me on my name, on my reputation, etc. So I know what's the other sides, and I seen it. Like you guys are been in the sport, you know, you see when someone cares. all of this. I didn't do the videos. I didn't won those championship. I didn't look to break those records because I really give a shit about being famous or having people like stopping me. I didn't do that. I did that for the love of the sport and seeing the sport as a almost like a science, right? We spoke about before that you can show me a technique, right?
Yeah.
It can be great, can have like amazing, can look so good on camera, right? But when you bring a technique, it's like science, no? Me and you, we discuss about new theory. I bring my theory, you bring your theory, and now the theory have to be applicable in a specific circumstances, right? It's a fight. Can you do uh, can you do a Dagestani handcuff on the wall? Yes, you can do it. Why? It's proven. How successful it is? A lot success. So you have to have, first of all, if it's applicable in a fight, once you find out, yes, it is, you have to look now, my one and your one, which one is better? What's the percentage of your one to be successful and my one? My one is more successful than your one. So my one is better. Or we open a discussion. In these circumstances, your technique is more applicable than my one. And I say, yeah, I agree. So that's why in fighting you have to be open-minded. And it's very hard because it's a driven ego sport where coaches like they won't accept like, oh, this guy knows more than me. Let me evolve. You know what's funny? Like I have so many people who they challenge my theories, right?
Yeah.
The point is like they need to understand one concept. Like I've studied, if I put something out there, I've studied to the tiniest detail. And a lot of guys, they watch one of the video up and like not a few days ago, a guy like, yeah, you did this technique, but that's what's happened after. And I replied to him, man, first of all, watch the video until the end. Because the answer of what he was asking was after he watched the first 10 seconds, and after it's like 40 seconds when I'm explaining exactly what he wants to ask me. And I say to him, first of all, pay attention on the content, because if I put it out there, I can guarantee you I've been putting so much hours, thousands of hours behind that things. And for 13 years, I'm doing that 24/7. So if I show you something, I can guarantee you the margin of error is very little. But I'm open on a challenge. I'm open to understand, because if I want to be the best, I need to be open to understand where I can improve. No, and I feel like a lot of coaches, even is interesting seeing it in the Australian scene, local. Bring the local scene. They will like not respect what I bring on the table, but after you see them teaching their students, and it's very interesting, huh? Like you might like it or not like someone on a personal level, but I have to respect when someone have knowledge. You know?
I think a big thing as well is when it comes to Fury, it has to come down to a lot of experience, like you said. If you're putting like 13 years into the sport and you're drilling this technique day in and day out, you become an expert in this field of doing that technique. So you understand better than most people why you do this in a fight situation.
Yes.
Where I think a lot of people nowadays, they just see something that's good online, like we were speaking about before, and they just start teaching it rather than not having the knowledge behind it.
Yes.
And showing their class why they're doing this technique.
Exactly. Plus, the beautiful things about human, everyone is different, even genetically, body type. Like we can have the same weight division. I can be skinny long, like O'Malley. Or we can have like the same weight division, you can be small, stocky, like Volkanovski, right? So everyone have like different styles. So sometimes some things I can do, you can't do it. Some things you can do, I cannot do it. So that's what I'm saying, I have to be applicable. I had one fighter, right? He comes to me and say like, coach, he came with me and he won 3 fights in a row. He comes to me, coach, I want to talk to you. I say, yeah, go on. And they need to, one thing you need to understand, I've been coaching for 12, 13 years. Every single weekend of my life, 2-3 fights a weekend. So put the number out there. I've seen it all. Like when they tell me something, I already know where they're going. Like I've heard it 50 times. So I'm there listening. I say, go on. Say, like my last 3 fights, yeah, I won all of them. I say, yeah, go ahead. But I want to knock them out. And I'm like, yeah, so break it down. I like to, it's like a discussion, no? Like
Absolutely.
we was talking. Tell me more about it. So he's talking, like I know I could have knocked them out. And I'm like, okay, you finished? Can I talk? He said to me, my old coach told me I should have finished those guys. And I'm like, I said to him, first of all, you have no knockout power. I said to him, like, first things, you don't have knockout power. Now, this doesn't mean you cannot finish people. You can TKO him, you can submit them, you can hit them in the right spot. Everyone goes down, but genetically, he's more a volume guy, not like Mike Tyson, you know what I mean? So I told him, secondary, you won 3 fights. How do you won? Oh, I completely dominant every round, took them down by decision, didn't take any damage. So you don't think that's better than like going on a scrap and maybe have an highlight reel of you knock him down or maybe he knock you out? So technically and tactically, did we do it everything right? Yeah, we do it, but I should knock them out. And I'm like, listen, so first of all, to be a fighter, you have to be smart, because I'm not gonna talk to dumb people. You know what I mean? So I learned to put my foot down, especially if we have a discussion. Like, if you want to understand, good. If not, like, it's nothing we have to talk about. He said to me, yeah, my old coach, because he moved from another region in Australia, told me my next fight, I should finish the guy. And I'm like, elaborate better. What do you mean with that? He said, yeah, he should, I should finish the guy. I'm saying, like, so your old coach is telling you he will look to find your fight so you can knock out a guy. That's what you're telling me between the lines. He said, no, not like that. I said, listen, just so you know, that's the door. Like, you have in a loser mentality already. I don't want that around, because it's like a rotten apple. Like, you get other people.
True.
My team is well known to fight everyone, everywhere. So if I get you to a competition level, if your goal is to be the best in the world, you have to have the will to fight the best. And on an amateur level, after you pass like 2-3 fights, you want to get tested for real before you go pro, because at the end of the day, a lot of people have the life goal to get to UFC, right?
Definitely.
That's not a good goal. Your goal is to be competitive in UFC. Because if you go to UFC, you do 2-3 fights, you lose them all, and you put in your bio, former UFC fighter, is like, the point is, like, it's a very, very high level, and to get there, it means already you are special and you are very good. Okay?
Absolutely.
But a lot of people, they save the money, they put the goal to get in UFC. Your goal is to be competitive in UFC, because once you are there, now you're in the big dog league, and like every single person you're gonna face, they're gonna be a hard challenge. So your goal as an athlete out there shouldn't be to go in UFC. Your goal should be to be competitive in UFC. When you step in UFC, to have that level, mental, physical preparation to be extremely competitive against anyone in the world.
Definitely. I only have time for one more question. So if you can tell yourself at the age of 18 what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
At the age of 18, I will give myself an advice to not be too hard on myself. I will ask myself to enjoy more the simple things in life, because when you run to win and to succeed in something, you don't really see the things you're losing on the path. I became the coach who I am today, and people don't see all the things I have to lose to get to the stage I'm now. And the point is, the interesting part, it's people think that's great, and in my head, I'm that hard on myself right now, thinking I didn't do 10% of what I have in my head. So I will tell myself, if you sit down and enjoy things, and if you achieve something, breathe and spend time with the loved one, and because one day I'm not gonna be here, those results, they're gonna be far away, you know. But when you have the opportunity to enjoy someone you really love, to sit down with them and enjoy their company, you know, and life with them.
I love that. I just want to thank you again for coming down.
Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.